Welcome everybody to the Scale Up Show. This is your host Ryan Staley, and I have a very special guest with me today. I have Alexander DeRitter. Alexander is the founder and CEO of SmythOS, which is essentially an AI operating system which connects networks via specialized AI agents. He's had 3 exits as the founder, has founded other companies outside of that. Alexander, welcome. Happy to have you on the show, man.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, super excited. Loved our pre-show prep conversation, where things are going, especially in the space of AI agents, which I've been kind of unhealthily obsessed with recently. Probably not as long as you, otherwise the company wouldn't be where it's at right now. But why don't you give you the listener a real quick backdrop on just like how you got to this point, and then a little bit about you and your company and what you're focused on right now.
Okay, how did we get to this point? We're at SmythOS. It's a platform to build agents. We have been in the AI space as a company. I think we started 2017, but I've been in ML since 2008. And our initial focus was not to be a SaaS product company, but it was to enable an agency that I was part of with AI technology. And so a few patents later, in 2019, we released our first SaaS product. Later on, the agency was acquired, the SaaS product spun off. It was out there doing things that before others were doing it. But then we got punched in the face pretty hard. There were a few companies that came out that were quite frankly easier to use. And I learned a very important lesson then, and I'm still reminding myself of this every day. The better product doesn't always win. The product that is easier to use wins. So even if your scoring method or algorithm is clearly going to yield better results, people are still going to opt for the thing that is 80% as good, but 200% easier to use. And so we got punched in the face by a competitor that was exceptional in their execution and operation. You know how they say it's 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. And it was not for lack of hard work or trying. They just figured out how to build community, how to make a product easier to use, and they took off. Ironically, that very thing that made them successful also got them punched in the face when ChatGPT came out, because
Ah,
that was even easier to use and really left them scrambling. The timing was magnificent for them because they had acquired $1 billion valuation. The founders got a big fat lump sum of cash and then GPT came out 2 weeks later. And the investors were like, wait, what? Yeah, kind of ChatGPT took everyone by storm. But then that just reinforced that important lesson once again. It's like people want to just chat and make it better than everybody else. And yeah, you win the market. So fast forward, SmythOS, we actually made a document
mhm.
coming out of these past experiences, and it's something like how not to lose. And we listed every way that we got our butts kicked by competitors, and we figured, we keep going back to this constitution, if you will, from time to time. As agents started taking off, we saw agents were going to be a big thing. We saw that before function calling was even available in AI models. So I'm pretty confident we were among the world's first people to really see this capability. And that was later reinforced by us being one of the first 40 in the world to have a plugin in the GPT store. And I think the first 30 were had early access from OpenAI. We didn't. I don't think they ever threw us a bone. Um, It can tell you a lot about their early behavior when it came to early access. Our competitors were able to like grandfather in because they acquired some company that
Okay.
had like bigger limits, and it created a very unfair competitive landscape. But regardless, excuses are for losers, right? They beat us fair and square, right? So we learned from that. Now agents are what I see is like the economic fulfillment of AI. It's what makes AI, it's putting the ROI in AI, so to speak. It turns it from just a chat buddy that helps you with some answering some questions and write some stuff for you to something that actually can get work done. And so, yeah, here we are with SmythOS. And I thought that, that lesson of making it easier, I don't think our first versions of SmythOS were easy enough. They were easy if you're a developer trying to build an agent yourself with code. It was
Hmm.
infinitely easier. But I think to really break through, we needed to do something more. And that something more was having an agent that builds the agents for you. And we just released that.
Nice. Love that. That's beautiful, man. I think that's I mean, it's great that you basically institutionalize and constitutionalize, I guess, your loss, your biggest losses, right? And what smacked you in the face. I mean, it's smart. A lot of folks don't learn from that because there's a lot to unpack what you just said. So, what I guess, like, if we could do real quick, because I'm just curious, and I'm sure my listeners are as well, is like, what are the top three biggest areas? You mentioned one, that simplicity of use, make it the most easily usable product, which I've seen too, rolling LLMs out to companies. That's one of the biggest barriers is well, I don't have this, right? Don't have that, right? So, but what are the other two that you said were like some of the biggest learnings you had from that? I would love to hear that.
I think explainability, like understanding what the workflow is actually doing. Like AI models are so often a black box. You have no clue how it came up with the answer it did, and you don't know therefore if it did things the proper way. And being able to understand visually, like yeah, this is happening, then it's doing that. Let me check this step. Oh, it's not doing this the way I want. Like being able to like visually understand it, where you could show it to your mother and she would be able to just read the components and be like, oh, yeah, that's what this thing is doing. When AI is a black box, trust is missing and it's not going to achieve its economic impact. So that is a very big item. Debugging, we made that ridiculously easy, but I'll put that in category one. Same thing with hosting scaling. But I would say the third biggest thing would be like data governance, data governance and security. I think it's a huge obstacle for companies in adopting AI agents, which we believe we solved, right? So understanding how your data flows, where it goes, what data is allowed to go where, and like not creating new data silos. People already have too many data silos. They're not signing up for a product to create plus one. I mean, forget about it. SmythOS is able to orchestrate any API, any data source, any AI model. It's not creating a new one of its own.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, let's go a little bit deeper on the whole process of, or like, how would you define an agent, right? Because I think that's one of the biggest misnomers right now. It's like saying sales and marketing are the same thing, right? Agents and co-pilots and chatbots are all the same thing, is where so there's a ton of market confusion. So how would you define the term AI agent?
So by contrast, right, an LLM or AI model, I would not call it an agent if all it is doing to respond to you is relying on its internal data or maybe referencing a document in context. That would just be an LLM. But the moment you start calling an outside API, for example, or the
Uh,
moment that AI follows multiple steps in a workflow, like first do this, then do that, then evaluate this, then depending on what the outcome is, do one or another other thing, that's when you start talking about AI agents. So examples of that, right? It's an AI model if you're asking it to write a LinkedIn post. It's an agent if it's writing the LinkedIn post, but then also schedules it in Buffer,
Yeah.
right? It's an LLM if it helps you write an email. It's an AI agent if it is on a schedule, it checks your email at 8 a.m. in the morning, prioritizes most important email, tags it, and responds or unsubscribes to stuff you don't want to see.
Mhm.
That's the difference between AI in general and AI agents. You put productivity, put work into it. Sometimes it runs in the background. Sometimes it sits there as an API. And we have also, well, it's a little early to talk about it. When is this show going to air?
Probably within the next few weeks, right?
Okay. Okay. All right. So we've invented something new called Meta LLM.
Mhm.
And a meta LLM is when you can orchestrate multiple um, AI models and so forth and API calls into a workflow. And then the agent itself acts like an LLM and you can
Oh,
integrate
nice.
it. Yeah. So this is a meta LLM. To my knowledge, we are the first in the world that are going to have this functionality capability. And it will stand apart because it is so easy to integrate in existing SDKs and integrations. Because people are already used to integrating LLMs, but they're not used to integrating agents into their workflows. And so Meta LLMs would be the solution we've come up with to bring agents deployments, call this like embodiments, embody them as an LLM or a Meta LLM.
That's awesome, man. Well, congrats on that. Let's break that down because, like, can we take it one step further? So, why did you create that, and what are like? Give me an example use case of where that would be highly applicable, or and like, give me some examples like that. That would be very valuable because I think that's where people get lost sometimes.
Agents in general.
No, the Meta LLM, like where you're
Okay, we're gonna go
integrating
deep
agent.
into this. Yeah, my developer team's gonna absolutely love it that I already told you about this.
Well, we could if you want, man. Well,
Yeah,
anyway, go ahead. We can talk more
yeah,
about
yeah.
logistics after the episode or whatever. But I want to make sure
There's a lot more. There's a lot more to talk about when we release it. For now, just let's focus on this, right? So, if you create an agent inside of like Microsoft,
uh
then if you ever wanted to switch to like a Google Workspace, you'd be stuck. You'd have to redo all your agents. And oftentimes, when you use certain platforms, they want you to use their data, their models, and follow their restrictions. With SmythOS, you have that liberty. And part of this liberty is to make your agent once and then deploy it anywhere, making it easily deployable across both a Copilot, a GPT, Claude Assistant, Meta's AI Studio, or Google's AI Studio, but deploy them where your customers are. Alexa agents. Man, how many personal assistant have I set off by now? Sorry, audience. We should not name those things, right?
No, it's
Uh,
okay. Go for it, man. We don't have any. None of those are our sponsors, so we're good.
so making it easy to build it once and deploy it anywhere is going to be really important because marketing is moving to an omni-channel world.
hmm
You can no longer just be relying only on SEO or only on TikTok or only on LinkedIn. There's too many stories that have happened where a channel stops performing or you get shadow banned for whatever reason and businesses completely get eviscerated, right? So you cannot be single channel anymore. You have to be omni-channel. And if that is true, it means that your customers are finding or looking to find information in more platforms than ever before. Gone are the days 10 years ago, everybody found their answers on just a Google page, right? And then this landscape has completely changed. Now you need to be way more diversified. So as we are seeing the agentic shift happen, all of that diversified number of platforms people are on, all of that is going to become agentic. And so how do you envision as a brand, how do you envision creating a brand agent that can communicate with clients over WhatsApp, over Facebook, over Slack, over Google, on your website, maybe in Discord? How do you make your agent once, but then reach your customers everywhere they live and operate, right? So these like nice walled gardens, I'll build your agent for you, but you have to stick with me till you die, and I don't work well with others. That is not the solution we see the market needs.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think there's definitely a reckoning that's going to be happening in terms of my opinion with some of the companies that are, I'm not even going to say who they are, but really big system of record companies or other organizations, because like there's going to be a lot more options that are surfacing now. So it sounds like that's the direction you're heading, where it's more like a, just like you have model agnostic, it's like location agnostic where you can deploy those once you create it, right? So it can be unified across all those. So I absolutely love that concept, man. And it's going to be hard for some people to wrap their heads around. I think like, I think an example would be, and I'll break this down. If you prompt in one LLM, right, and all the LLMs work a little bit differently, it would be more of the realm of like not having to prompt differently for each LLM to get similar-ish results, right? And I know they're starting to get similar, so maybe that's a bad example, but I get what you're saying. So I think that's awesome, man. And congrats on that, and looking forward to seeing that work and come out and even test that, man. And maybe we have you back after it's live and we do some stuff with it, because that's pretty cool. So, well, unfortunately, we're up on time for this episode. Where can people find you? Where can people find out more about SmythOS? And then we'll wrap, and then you'll be back for part 2 coming up soon.
Thank you. Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn and Twitter. My company and product is SmythOS, SMYTHOS.com. And we have a wonderful free account tier. Nobody should not go try it out. Go to the webpage and type in the type of agent that you'd like to imagine. Hit the build it for me button and watch it do its magic.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for being on, Alexander. It was a pleasure hearing your vision and how you're bringing that to life. What's going on sounds really exciting to me, and I've seen a lot of different tools and capabilities. So pumped to see that get released and get my hands on this as well.
Nice to be here.
All right. And we will see you on the next episode.